All right, we're going to try this again. Sorry about that. Seems there was an audio problem. Just let me know if you are hearing my voice at this time. And I'd like to welcome everybody back once again. This is Chris, and this is my channel, We Love Comics. And as you can see, we already got a bunch of people in the live chat. Sorry about that. For some reason, the program just shut off the microphone so they can hear me, so thank you for that. All right, so we're going to take two, and that's why I love doing this live, because it shows mistakes can happen. You just go from there. All right, so first thing I want to say before I start is thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time to listen to my videos. I always appreciate it. I always encourage people to enter the live chat and communicate. One of the things I don't mind doing on my channel is helping to promote other people's channels. So if you make videos, indicate it in the live chat. Have conversations with the people that are there. And subscribe to everybody's channels. Check them out, because you never know. They might talk about things that you're not aware of or find their channels very interesting. And again, I don't mind helping promote. So come in, even if it's your first time, come into the live chat. You'll see everybody here communicates really well, and they do subscribe to other people's channels. And like I said, I don't mind doing that. So just keep it clean and have a great conversation, and we'll help, expand the comic book communities to learn about other people's channels. So I highly encourage that. So now that we have actual sound and you can hear what I'm saying, this video I want to talk about, because I think this is very important when it comes to when is the best time to collect comics. Now, I'm not talking about brand new comics that you love to read, because obviously the time to get those is when they first come out. I'm talking about speculation kind of comics, key issue comics, especially now, since with all these amazing movies and TV shows that are out there, the speculation market has probably not seen this much excitement in a very long time. And the good thing is, the majority of the comic book movies and TV shows are very entertaining. So it's definitely keeping the comic book industry alive, and we're getting more and more new people. And that's one of the reasons why I make videos like this, because I think it's going to be geared towards some of the newer people out there. Because, I mean, people that have been collecting like me for 30, 40 years, we pretty much know this stuff already. But I see every day new people getting into the comic book world, and to me that's a good sign. So to anybody out there that's new, who started collecting comics within the last year or less, indicate it in the live chat room. Let yourself be heard. Because one of the things I've learned in this community is, if you're new, a lot of times people feel very intimidated, and they don't want to ask a lot of questions. And that could keep them from learning things, especially things that could save them a lot of money. And that's one of the reasons why on my channel, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else's, but my subscribers appreciate this, is that I always mention the prices of the comic books that I purchase. And the reason I do that is because I want people to know what kind of deals are out there. So especially if you're new, you can get a general idea of what kind of prices you can get for a comic that you may be interested in purchasing. Now, if you see on eBay and you check the prices that I get, a lot of times they're at the lower price range. I do get very good deals, so they might be harder, but it does show at least a range, and I think many people appreciate that. So when it comes to buying, key comics because of a movie that's just coming out, or even just a trailer has just come out, or you hear about a TV show that's just come out and it's really popular, most people, when it comes to purchasing comics, buy them based on emotion. And that could end up financially costing you a lot more than it should. Now, obviously, if you're a millionaire, that's not going to matter, but I seriously doubt every person in the chat room, including myself, is a multi-millionaire who could spend thousands of dollars on a book and doesn't care about the price. So, coming from the fact that I am not a millionaire, I want to try and get the best deals possible for my books, so this way, the money that I save can go towards more of what I love, and that's one of the things I want to promote with people here. So the biggest mistake I see is most comic book collectors, and you see this on eBay all the time, is they tend to buy books when they are in high demand. In other words, when a movie just showed its trailer, or just indicated that a movie or TV show is coming out, or it's the quote-unquote hottest book at the moment. And you can get those books. They'll be all over the place because sellers love trending situations like that because they will list them like crazy, but you're going to spend a lot of money. And I'll give you a prime example. The movie that's coming out that everybody's talking about is the Marvel's Black Panther movie. Now, I was telling people to get, for example, obviously Fantastic Four 52 is expensive, so that one's going to be harder for people to get. But I was telling people years ago on my old channel to get books like, for example, Black Panther issue number 1, which came out around 1976. Now, this was about 2 years ago. That comic you could get at that time for anywhere between $5 and $15, depending on the condition. So average price was around $10 to $12 for about a fine, very fine of that book, grade of that book. If you go online now, it's one of the second highest trending selling comic at the moment. Amazing Spider-Man 300 being the first. Those people now are spending $50, $70, I've seen over $100 for that book. So when it comes to speculating, and I know some people see that as a 4-letter word, even though it's a lot longer than 4 letters, a lot of people do it. I mean, all you have to do is go on eBay and see how many thousands upon thousands of books being sold at much higher prices than their cover prices. So I know there are plenty of people that say, oh, you should get comics for the reading of it. And of course, there is no wrong way to collect comics. But the fact remains is comic collecting is a very lucrative investment if you do it the right way. And the key is to buy a book not when everybody wants it, because demand is going to limit the supply, and that's going to raise the price. So the key is to get books way before a movie is announced, which can make it challenging because you never know what's going to come out. So I always say, if you stick with the main or larger characters, whether they're villains or heroes, the likelihood of them being at least partially in a movie, in other words, they may not have a solo movie, but they may be, part of an entourage, like in the Avengers, you will increase your chances. Also, when a movie or TV show is finished or a particular character has reached, like for example, a villain has already been used, the best time to buy that comic is maybe a year or two after the movie is done, because we know that that character is probably never going to come back or not going to come back for a very long time. Because I've noticed a lot of trends when it comes to comic book collecting is people are always going to want the book that's most popular, the ones where the movie is coming out. That's why you're seeing Amazing Spider-Man 300 being sold all over the place. That's why you're seeing the Black Panthers being sold all over the place. You're going to see the Infinity War comics being sold all over the place. So if you get the news right away that a movie's about to happen, grab it as soon as you can. If you cannot get it within the first couple of hours of an announcement, you're better off waiting. And that is the biggest thing when it comes to saving money on comic books. Because like I said, if you have a lot of money, it's not really going to matter. But to me, I don't want to be spending $500 on a book I could have bought for $20 2 or 3 years ago. So the thing is you have to have patience. And unfortunately, a lot of people base things on emotion that I want it because everybody else wants it. And there are plenty of books that I've told people years ago, if you followed my original channel, that I told them, get these books now. They're paying double, triple, even quadruple the prices now because they waited. Now, why didn't most people pick them up then? The reason, again, is emotion, because nobody was talking about that book. Nobody wanted that book. So for me, I don't mind getting books like, for example, the first appearance of She-Hulk, which is She-Hulk number 1. Will she ever be in a movie or TV show? Who knows? But I bought that book 2-3 years ago, And I spent an average of $20 to maybe $30 on that book. If she ever ends up in a TV show or a movie, that book is going to quadruple because the demand will be up, more people will want it, and that book is going to raise in value. If you watched my old channel, first indicate that in either the comment section if you're not watching this live or in the live chat. Let me know if you were one of my subscribers before I shut the original We Love Comics down. One of the biggest comics that I was telling people to get was Ultimate Fallout 4, which is the first appearance of Miles Morales. Now, when I was talking about that book, I must have between 12 and 15 copies of that book. I paid an average of $12 to $15 a piece. Well, good luck for that. And you haven't even seen the trailer. Well, you saw a minor trailer, but that movie isn't coming out in a little while, and that's not a live action. That's just a cartoon, and I think they're using that as a barometer to see if Miles Morales would actually work in a movie. But the comic prices have already gone up. Good luck trying to find that for under $25 to $30 at this point. The same thing, like, for example, with the first appearance of, Captain Marvel. I was buying those books, Captain Marvel #1, for $15, $20 a couple of years ago. Now, obviously, I was buying these in 2015, 2016. It's now 2018, so it's a couple of years later. So if you want to save money, you are going to wait a long time either to purchase it or before it has any value. And for anybody out there to say that people don't collect for value reasons is just kidding themselves. I mean, the average person on eBay is buying a book because it has potential financially. So we have to be talking about realism, not wishful thinking, because I know there are people who wish that the comic book community was all about just reading books. But here's the thing. The comic book readers need the speculators, and the speculators need the readers, because comic book stores would go out of business if all of a sudden the speculators decided to no longer buy comics. Because a comic book store cannot survive just selling the $3.99 comic book. They need to sell the $1, $2, $3, $4, $500 comic books. That's where the money is for these businesses. And remember, comic book stores are your local mom and pop stores. And that's another reason why I even buy mainly on eBay, because I'm not buying from a corporate store that's making millions of dollars and, using, workers from China overseas. These are regular people that are trying to maybe earn extra income to pay their next bill. So I don't mind purchasing from them. But like I say, I always want to save as much money as possible. So here's some advice. Research, research, research. The more you learn about comics, the better chances of you being aware of maybe what's coming, what's rumored, what books to look for. There's a big difference between, for example, Hulk 180 and Hulk 181. Now, almost everybody will say Hulk 181 is the first appearance of Wolverine. No, it is not. It is the first full appearance of Wolverine. The cameo was in Hulk 180, but that's his first appearance. Same thing I see with Amazing Spider-Man 300 all the time. I see it constantly on eBay. Amazing Spider-Man 300, first appearance of Venom. No, it is not the first appearance of Venom. It is the first full appearance of Venom, but the first actual appearance is a cameo in issue 299. And even in a couple of issues before that, like, for example, Secret Wars 8, which is the first appearance of the symbiote, which becomes Venom. So the more you research, the more you're going to protect yourselves. And that's why, like, for example, the other day, I did the video about the reprint of the Fantastic 452, which is the first appearance of the Black Panther. Now, some of the comic collectors that have been out there for a while said it's an easy spot to notice what's different. Now, for those of you who've been collecting for a while, of course it's going to be easy. The newer collectors, the ones who just got in yesterday or today, the ones that have only been around for a week or two, who may be afraid or embarrassed to ask a basic question, Because there are, unfortunately, some people, and this happens in any community, where if a new person walks into something, I've seen it on video game channels. If you don't know every single bit of history from a specific video game, some of the people in the quote-unquote community will totally gang up and attack you and make fun of you. So that's why I reach out to a lot of the newer collectors, because on my channel, you can ask the basic questions. You can ask the ones that you're afraid to ask, because I'm not going to critique you. I'm not going to make fun of you, because we've all been there. The only way you become an expert is to learn from your mistakes and grow from your experience. So the first day I collected comics back in the 80s, I didn't know a thing. The reason I know now is because of decades of experience. So most people that are comic book experts, or people that have been around for a while, when they see that Fantastic 452, one of the first things they noticed is it did not have the 12-cent price tag on the front. Now, if you're brand new to comic book collecting, you may not know about that. You may overlook that. And unfortunately, there are eBay sellers, and you've seen throughout my both channels, the original We Love Comics and this one, that I've shown videos where people either did not know, which I don't believe them most of the time, or they flat out lie. And if you're not aware of these things and you don't check them, you hurt yourself financially. So I know a lot of people want to say, hey, I got the hot book. But think about, why is it hot? Is it going to be something that's going to be only hot for a little while? Because especially with, like, minor characters, and I learned the hard way through this. If they're a one-and-done character, they're going to be hot for the moment. Like, for example, in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, everybody was getting the Living Planet comic. You know, Ego the Living Planet. You're probably not going to see that character again in the comics. So that Thor comic, and I think it's 114-ish, somewhere around there. I mean, I bought that book for $5 years ago. That book rose in value. It was very hot at the time. Now, it's worth maybe a quarter of what it peaked as, because the movie came and gone, people moved on to the next hottest thing, and yes, Thor 132, so I was off, but that's all right. I can't memorize everyone. Thank you, DS Comics. So if you wanted, for example, the first Living Planet, the worst time to buy it would have been as the previews are coming out for the movie, or the movie is out, because you're going to pay top dollar, because everybody's going to want it. Because speculators go during trends. They go during the hottest level, which is the silliest time. Because if you think about speculators, what is the purpose of speculating? It is to be able to buy a comic, or whatever you invest in, whether it's coins or stamps or bottle caps, whatever, even stocks. The idea is to buy low and sell high. The idea is to be able to make more money than you spent. That's primarily the reason why majority of people get their comics graded, and why I talked about the fact of why CGC is the #1 grading company. Why? Because the biggest reason that most people say is, well, you can sell them for more money. So that right there shows that there are a lot of people in the speculation market, and it's not bad. If you invest in stamps, or you invest in baseball cards, or you invest in the stock market, it's all about trying to take what little income you have and turning it into something more so you can live a better life. So that's not really bad if you think about it. Now, if you're trying to take advantage of people, that's a whole nother thing. But the average person out there is not saying, oh, I'm going to take advantage of the world and buy up every, X-Men #1, own them all, and then sell them at $50,000 a piece. Woo-hoo-hoo-ha. No, most people say, you know what? I don't have a lot of money. I can invest in this particular item, maybe sit on it for a little while, turn around and sell it for a nice profit so I can maybe buy my wife a nice present, or I can have a bill paid, or I can bring my, put my children through college. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's not really that bad. But, like they say, and most people have the phrase differently, but the way I was always taught is a few bad apples can spoil the tree. And when you see people on eBay that will gladly take advantage of a situation, when it comes to popular comics, you're going to pay through the nose. Now, the deal I showed, for example, on my Fantastic Four 52, I just lucked out because I got 52 and 53 for $99, and I would say that 52 comic is at least a 3.5, maybe a 4.0. But that right now is selling on eBay on average between $250 up to $350 people are spending for that book. So I could have bought 3 or 4 of that same book at that price. Now, like I said, that was one of those needle in a haystack moments. But things like, for example, I was telling people years ago, and it's still relatively cheap when you think about it, the Edge of Spider-Verse 2, which is the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. Now, I was telling people to buy that book when you could get it for between $25 and $30. So I bought probably 6 or 7 copies, 2 of which I sent graded and came back CGC 9.8s. And I did not spend more than $30 for them. Now, she hasn't been in a movie. She hasn't been in a TV show. Just imagine how much that book will rise once she is. And I think with the whole Miles Morales cartoon, they could be doing the Spider-Verse, which means she could show an appearance, and that all of a sudden will make people want to get that book. Especially nowadays, you see they are really promoting a lot of female characters in movies. So what better female character to introduce, at least as far as Marvel's concerned, than somebody like Spider-Gwen, which basically came out of nowhere. It was basically just a cover that people liked and really got popular. Now, that book right now, ungraded, is probably going to cost you between $75 and $100. So right there, you're going to spend probably double or triple of what I spent or other people spent when they bought it years ago. But I think that still has plenty of room to grow, potentially. Now, here's the biggest thing when it comes to investing in comics. Don't get too excited with a win, and don't get too down on a loss, because you will have comics that will go up and down. Like, for example, with that Fantastic Four 52, basically spending $49.50. That's great. But for every win like that, I have the, Scooby-Doo number 12. I'm sure people remember that one. That was a hot book at the moment, and people spent through the nose for that. Me, I didn't worry because I bought them for cover price. So I didn't lose hundreds of dollars, and I never sold any, so it didn't matter. So there are times that you're going to buy what I like to call the flavor of the week or the flavor of the month, only to find out it's not worth anything anymore. So for every win that you get, you're probably going to get 20 or 30 losses. So you have to be very thick-skinned to be in this kind of situation, or be like me that just has the fun for it. Because if I had a very trending book or popular book or valuable book, and I was able to acquire it at a price lower than what most people are paying today, I'm very happy about that. And if I have the first appearance of, like, say, for example, of Green Goblin, or the first appearance of any major character, to me, that's what brings the joy. And a lot of people forget that. So price ultimately shouldn't matter, but still, why put money in somebody else's pocket when you can keep it in your own to be able to buy more? So the worst books right now to buy are Amazing Spider-Man 300, Black Panther number 1, Fantastic Four 52, unless you find a good deal. And DS Comics says UK editions always sell for way less than the US Ada editions. Yeah, that's true. Most people want the US edition, that's why. Again, it's all supply and demand. So if you want a book where you can get it for a cheaper price, sometimes maybe getting a UK edition will get you basically the same book, but a cheaper price. But also keep in mind, if you're going to turn around and sell it, you're going to end up selling it for less. It's not going to be as desirable. So if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Anything comic related, doesn't even have to be about the topic. But I want people to do more work. I mean, you reap what you sow. The more effort you put in, the less likely you'll get burned, the more happy you'll be with what your purchases are, and the more money you'll save. Because anybody buying Amazing Spider-Man right now, number 300, even in low grades, you're going to spend $200-$300. I bought Amazing Spider-Mans. First of all, I bought 2 of them back when they first came out. Now, obviously, I'm a little bit older. It's easier to do. But even recently, in the past couple of years, I was buying them for under $100, between $150 and under, for near mint copies. Good luck getting that now. But if the Venom movie, for example, bombs, and I hope it doesn't, but if it bombs, that's going to lower the value. So you may have to wait now if you want to not spend massive amounts. Now, that's the bad thing about key issues is sometimes they never go down. Certain books, like, for example, Amazing Fantasy 15, I don't care if the next 3 Spider-Man movies in a row tank, that book is not all of a sudden going to become a $200 book. So certain books you're going to spend money on, but you don't want to spend more when it's all of a sudden the hot topic of discussion. So that's the best advice I can give. Get rid of the emotion when it comes to, I need this comic now. Be more of a leader and less of a follower. Because the sad part is, there are some people that will promote a comic and then turn around and sell it and just happen to have dozens of them. I don't sell my comics. I think in 20 years of, well, actually 30 plus years, showing my age, of comic book collecting, I think I've sold maybe 15 comics at most in 30 years. Matter of fact, most of my videos that you've ever seen, you could just mention one of the comics and I'll be more than happy to show you. So it's not about the selling for some. And All About Comics says, I can't understand why 299 isn't considered the first. Well, it is the first. Issue 299 is the cameo. With very few exceptions, cameos tend to not have as much value. I mean, one of the exceptions, for example, is the first appearance of Darkseid, or Darkseid, however you want to say it. The cameo is actually worth more. A lot of times, cameos don't show the villain on the cover, or you don't know about them, or you just see a glimpse of them, so they're not as desirable. But I always used to question that very thing, because back in the 80s, I bought Hulk 181, and I probably paid under $100 for it. It would have been at least a 9.4. It was one of my comics that got stolen. And I had the choice between buying issue 180 and Hulk 181. And I said to the comic book dealer, and I was about 16, 17 at the time, I said, well, why is Hulk 181 the most desirable when it's technically not his first appearance? And it's just, again, with popularity, because everybody views that as the #1 most popular Wolverine comic. Supply and demand, because everybody says that's the one to get, most people will get it. So the reason that issue 299 is not popular is not because it's not considered the first, it is, but because the full appearance is in Amazing Spider-Man 300. It's the number 300 issue, so it is a very special issue. It has a very iconic cover, drawn also by Todd McFarlane. It's the most desirable, and probably 9 out of every comic debuts for a character or villain, it is their first full appearance that ends up making the most money and is the most valuable. But that doesn't mean that it is the first appearance. There's a difference between cameo appearance and full appearance. Now, for example, Amazing Fantasy 15 is the first appearance of Spider-Man. There is no cameo. A cameo means just like one panel or something that where it seems a little sketchy, where the first appearance of Gambit, he's in the comic, I think it's X-Men Annual 14, he's in the comic more than just one page, but he doesn't speak, or doesn't speak much. So a cameo means you're only seeing a brief glimpse of that character. The full appearance is when you see a majority of that character in that particular issue. So it can confuse people. Because, like, for example, the first appearance of Mary Jane Watson, she has several cameos before she has her technical first full appearance. The first full appearance always tends to be most desirable, again, with a very few short, exceptions. So again, it tends to go by popularity because so many people say that book has the most value, they tend to go for it. And that's why another great book to spend money on, and it will be expensive, is comics like, for example, Hulk 180. Because if you cannot afford Hulk 181 because it's so out of reach, well, technically, Hulk 180 is the first appearance of Wolverine. You only see him on the last panel of the comic, but you do see him, and there he is for the first time in a comic book form. So you will spend dramatically less for that version of the comic. And slowly that comic is starting to see more and more value. But technically you would have the first appearance of Wolverine. It's just not the first full appearance. So it really basically goes by what people have said over the years. So again, it goes by emotion because everybody wants Hulk 181 to be that special comic. Well, it's a trend that people have been following for decades. And, talk about a certain thing for long enough, it becomes state of mind or it becomes fact. So that's why, for example, another one, Amazing Spider-Man 299, not going to be anywhere near as expensive as $300, but if you want the technical first appearance of Venom, well, $299 would be it, even though it's a cameo. But still, $299 comes before $300, which shows that you're getting it before the one that everybody views as popular. So you're going to probably spend a quarter of what the popular book is going to be. So, that's why sometimes I don't mind even lower condition books. Like if you've seen the video that I posted earlier today, in the comic book haul I had, one of the books I got was Amazing Spider-Man 50, which is the first appearance of Kingpin. And in the top right-hand corner, there was a piece of the cover missing. Now, to people who need the beautiful covered books, and I don't blame them because the nicer it is, the prettier it is to look at, I spent about $50 for that book. You're not spending $50 on a 7.0, 8.0, 9.8 book. You're going to spend probably 10 times that amount. So one of the things I love about the comic collectors that have to have the high-grade books is they're not going to bid on the lower-grade books, which keeps the value low for me as far as how much money I have to spend. And if you could spend under what it's worth, because even lower-grade comics can be worth lots of money. For example, as Alexis says, first appearance of Supergirl is not actually 252, it's Superman 123. That Superman comic is technically, it wasn't really Supergirl. There's a whole thing behind that. But even still, you're right, because that was first mentioned at that time. But because everybody indicates that 252 is the first appearance, well, that's what they're going to go for. Same thing with Captain America. The first recognized Silver Age appearance of Captain America is, Avengers 4. Well, there was another book, I think it's Tales of Suspense, or Tales to Astonish, one of the two, I think it's Tales of Suspense, where they had a cover with the with Captain America on it. It ended up being another character pretending to be him. But that was earlier, but it technically wasn't him. Just like, for example, in New Mutants 98, where they say the first appearance of Domino. Well, it wasn't the first appearance of Domino. It was the first appearance of a character that mimicked Domino. So that can happen sometimes as well. So, again, it's what people say. But like I was saying with lower grades, and speaking of the first appearance of 252 for first appearance of Supergirl. That book in a 1.0, good luck for finding it for $300-400. So even low-grade books can become very valuable. I mean, just imagine an Amazing Fantasy 15 coverless. That's not a very desirable book if it was a New Mutants 98. But for that book, you're going to spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for that book, even with it having no cover. So just because a book may not look as pretty does not mean it's not desirable. And the benefit for me of lower grade books is now I could say I have a first appearance, did not have to spend 10 times more the amount of money for it, and can use that extra money to maybe pay a bill, put gas in my car, or buy another comic book. So I don't mind the lower grades. I can understand there are people who absolutely refuse to get lower grades, which is fine. Because, believe it or not, there is no wrong way to collect comics. I mean, if you wanted to, and I wouldn't recommend it, you could literally buy a comic book and decide, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut it to shreds and make paper airplanes out of it. Probably not the best thing to do, but technically it's your book, it's your property, you can do whatever you want with it. So there really is no wrong way. And unfortunately, in the comic book community, and it's like any kind of community out there, video game community, makeup community, if you don't do things the way the majority do, they view it as there's something wrong with you. And to me, I go by the variety is the spice of life mentality. Don't do things just because everybody else is doing it, or because it's popular because everybody else says so, or you decide to follow a group of people just because you want to fit in. Because then you're not really doing what you love. And Alexa says, I cringe at coverless books. Now, nothing wrong with that. I have 2 coverless books that have facsimile covers. I wouldn't have been able to afford them either way. I got the Fantastic Four issue number 1 and Amazing Spider-Man issue number 1. Both coverless. Oh, and also Superman issue number 2 from 1939. A coverless book with a facsimile. Well, the Amazing Spider-Man number 1 I spent about $380 for. The Fantastic Four, which is graded at a 0.5 CGC, I spent about $300-400 for. And the Superman number 2, just imagine that, Superman number 2 from 1939, I spent I think about $250 for. That book in a 0.5 is probably about a $7,000-8,000 book. So for me, having the facsimile cover, it looks like the regular comic to me, but I would have never been able to get those comics because I can't afford $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for a book, at least not at the moment. So it all depends on why you're collecting. But please, when I say, especially the newer people that may be intimidated by people in this community, there are some people that will look down on you for whatever you do, especially if it's different. And that's one of the reasons why I made this video in the beginning talking about when's the best time to buy comics. Don't get pressured into buying a book because everybody says it's trending or it's hot or it's the must-have book that you have to get. Because if you're going to overspend just to get it, you know, like there's an old saying that says a fool and their money are soon parted. So if you're going to get a book, why not get it at the best possible price? And again, that's why I mention the prices on my videos. And a lot of people basically appreciate that. And not many comic book channels do that. And I really think, honestly, now I don't know, but I think the reason why most comic book channels do not mention the prices, especially of very expensive books, is they probably have spouses that would be a little upset if they heard the prices that they were spending on some of these books. So if they don't mention the price, if their spouse happens to come across their video, well, they probably wouldn't get thrown out of the house because some of these books will cost thousands of dollars. Now me, I happen to have an amazing wife who appreciates what I do, not only understands what I do, but she actually is subscribed to my channel, will watch my videos, and there are times she actually comments. She's asleep right now, so she's not commenting, but she probably will. So the idea is, be honest with the people that you are in a relationship with. But I think that's why some people don't do it. Me, I want to try and share my love for comics, and especially newer people. If you come here and ask the most ridiculous basic question that somebody like me and others have heard thousands of times, I'm not going to make you feel bad for it. Because one of the famous things that Joe DiMaggio ever said, and if you're a Yankee fan, you know, or at least a baseball fan, you know who Joe DiMaggio is. And when he retired or was about to retire, there was a person that was doing an interview with him and always asked him, why is it from day one to the end of your career you were always hustling? And he said, and I'm not direct quoting, but basically in a nutshell, he said that at any given moment, there was a person in the stands that was seeing him play for the first time. And he wanted that person to see the best of him, whether it was his last at bat or his first at bat. And that really stuck with me, because I don't want to assume that everybody here knows every single thing about comics. I mean, heck, there are plenty of times I've made mistakes, and that's okay. But to beat somebody up or attack them because they might not be as knowledgeable in a topic as you is just somebody with an ego that really needs to just, in effect, calm down. But it can be very intimidating, and I'm not just talking comics. I'm talking in any community where there's a majority of people that have a passion for something. Because when you have a passion for something, you're going to view it in a different way. It's like, for example, if you have two girls that you're sitting next to in a bar, one that you've never met before and don't know who they are, and one that you are married to or dating, you're going to have different responses if some guy came up and talked to both of them. If some guy came up and talked to the girl that you don't know, you're not going to really care. But if somebody tried to come up to talk to your wife or your girlfriend, you're going to handle it a lot differently. So when it comes to passion, I understand how some people have so much passion that if you're doing something different from what they do, or don't discuss it in the way they do, they might get personally offended. But in my opinion, there's got to be a time where we all, act a little bit more maturely and understand that we all benefit when we all communicate and have a great time talking about comics. And a lot of us suffer if all we do is back and forth argue. And that's one of the reasons why I decided originally to shut down my old channel, because I got tired of defending myself from people. Now I'm here just for the comics and for the people who want to come here and discuss them and have fun with them. And that's why you could see I post the live chat live, and you could watch this entire video and watch the conversation as it scrolls. They're having great conversations. They're polite. They're respectful. They're probably subscribing to one another. And this is what a community should be all about. Now, that doesn't mean that, praise me. It doesn't mean that I'm doing everything great. It's a learning lesson to say, do what you love, don't be intimidated, and if somebody makes you feel bad because you do something different from them, then those are people you don't want to associate with. And if you're just associating with them because they're popular, or they're trending, or it's what everybody follows, then you're more of a follower than a leader. And that's your choice. And that's why when it comes to any kind of collecting, if you're doing it just because everybody else is doing it, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And if they don't last as far as the value or the popularity, now you've spent all of this money on something that you only bought because everybody else told you you need to get it. And you didn't buy it for the love of it. And now the value is also gone. Now you're stuck with something that you regret. And that's never any way to invest in anything. So I hope something in this conversation helped you. And if it did, if you could show the support by sharing the video or thumbing it up, I really appreciate it. Is it mandatory? Absolutely not. And with my few stalkers that stalk my channel just to thumb them down, if you feel this is horrible advice and you need to thumb it down, by all means, please do. But here's my little bit of a request. If you do thumb down my video, leave in the comment section why. Tell me what I can do to improve it. Don't just come and thumb down a video. I mean, like I said, I have some stalkers. They do what they do. if they can't forget about me and they need to do that, that's fine. But if you didn't like what I had to say, tell me what I can do to improve it. Help me to help you, or to make this channel better. Because I'm not going to edit my videos to make them look super cool. I'm not going to play the latest music in the backgrounds or have the latest, whatever, fancy video. I'm not going to edit my video so it sounds like I'm doing everything perfect. I'm just going to show who I am, talk about what I love, and if I make a mistake, get something wrong, hey, it's part of life. And I think some people come here because they appreciate that. And if this is your first time, hit the subscribe button. And like I always say, don't hit the person next to you because they might be bigger. So to everybody out there that took the time to watch this live, and any person that gets to watch this days, weeks, and months later, I thank you for coming here. I welcome your comments. I will respond to each and every one of them. And hopefully we'll see you in the next video. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, say it with me. It's not you. It's not I. It's We Love Comics. And the code today to place in the comment section is, there are 25 people watching. So if you watched until this point, put that in the comments section, because I love when people listen to entire videos. It means a lot to me, and it's really appreciated. So thank you so much. Have a great night, and I will see you next video. And remember, even if I shut this down, keep communicating with each other. Talk amongst yourselves, subscribe to each other's channels. If you have a channel that you want to promote, put the link in the comment section. I have no problem sharing and promoting other people, because it's not, that's why it doesn't say I love comics. It's We Love Comics. Hasta la vista, comic book babies.